function, movements, and exercises for improved mobility is the topic I'm going to be covering next. Remember, our goal here in terms of increasing mobility is to we want to increase range of motion. We are not trying to use these movements and exercises that I'm going to go over to warm up for training. There's very little crossover, and frankly, if that's the goal, to warm up for training, there's a lot better solutions than what I'm going to go over now. So we need to make sure we continually separate that. Are we trying to increase range of motion, or are we trying to warm up? Don't confuse those two. So attached to this topic, you're going to have a PDF that you can refer to that lists out all the movements and exercises that are both static and dynamic in nature. And also you're able to link to the YouTube channel to watch all of those as well. So what I'm going to do in this topic here is we're going to go over some of my favorites. And I'm going to be going through the videos. I'm not going to go over them a ton. That's what you can refer to the YouTube channel for, and you can watch those, and all the videos come along with cueing for these as well, so you can get more in depth with them. But I wanted to touch on my favorites because honestly, there's dozens and dozens that we have on the list. And so I know that sometimes that can get overwhelming. So I want you to be able to zero in on, hey, if nothing else, probably focus on these better than not. And so the favorites that we're going to start with first is some of the ALDOA stretches. And so with the ALDOA stretches in particular, this is focusing on a lot of the fascial chains and systems in the body. We could have a whole nother, lots of long conversations about fascia. But basically what you want to think about fascia is it's almost a sleeve. Think about the clear cover wrap that you can put over like fruit or something like that. Saran wrap, yes. So think about it almost like saran wrap around your muscles, and that it goes through different patterns and chains throughout your body. And so what these ALDOA stretches do is they actually tap into that and help release. And I could say from personal experience, I do these in my personal workouts, and I don't even do them all the time. I don't even do them for more than 30 seconds sometimes, but these are the closest things I can say are magical when it comes to the stretches and the different types of stretches I've done over the years in trying to increase range of motion and have athleticism and function as much as I can. And so while nothing's a silver bullet or a magic pill, I would say that what I've experienced with these personally and what I've seen it do with other athletes is really, really amazing, and that you can do it on your own. So it's really important though with all of these ALDOAs is that you really follow the rules that we have for stretching, which is to breathe and to smile. That's for all of them, but especially for these because it can get really intense. And if it gets intense that you can't breathe, that you're holding your breath, or that you're not smiling, you are not telling your nervous system to relax. And therefore, I just feel like you're wasting your time. There are better things you could do. So tone it down, get to a place in any of these stretches where you can breathe and smile and keep that going. And maybe over time, you can develop it a little bit more. So I'm going to be talking through these. Again, there is audio that is associated with all these videos on YouTube, and you're not going to be able to hear it because I'm going to be talking over it. But again, go to YouTube to refer all of these. So this ALDOA stretch A is labeled that because I'm sitting in an A type position. You want to make sure you're nice and tall in the chest, both from the head, chin is tucked all the way down to the tailbone. You want to think about that stretching out as far as you can. And then you're going to reach out the arms and do what we call Spider-Man hands. So it's that palm facing out, fingertips are down, externally rotate, and we call that the Spider-Man position. And you're trying to keep that palm as flat as possible. So you're going to do that with one arm, then reach out for the other arm. Then once you're there, lift up one arm at a time, and all the while you're trying to keep tall in that posture. That's really going to be where you're going to have to think about breathing and smiling. And maybe you can't reach them up all the way and hold that. That's okay. But the whole time you're thinking about growing in your spine and keeping Spider-Man arms, flat palms, and then you're going to release one after the other and then relax. So that's ALDOA stretch A. ALDOA stretch B is named because when we're in that position, we are kind of going to be in a B position. We're going to end up on our back here. Feet are going to be up in the air. Knees are actually going to be a little bit past 90 degrees, so a little bit past the hips here. And you're going to be pointing your toes, little toes out and pulling them towards your shins as well. Your head is not on the ground. It's going to be just hovering above it. And very similar to ALDOA A, you're trying to stretch the spine as tall as possible from head to tailbone. We get in the Spider-Man position with our arms again, externally rotate, palm is flat, one at a time. And then we're just holding that. Again, the head is not on the ground. The head is hovering. Chin is trying to tuck, trying to look eyes down towards your knees as much as possible. And above all, we are breathing and smiling through this. Then you're going to release one arm, one foot, 1 foot. With all these ALDOAs, you want to make sure that you don't just release all at once, because you are kind of like putting a lot of tension on the system with how we're wrapping up and tapping into the fascial chains here. So that's why you want to release one at a time, especially with these ALDOAs. So ALDOA T, very similar setup to ALDOA B, in that we're in this supine position, laying on our back, knees are past 90, you're pulling your toes towards your shins there, Spider-Man arms, one after the other. Remember, the head is off the ground the whole time, chin is tucked, lots of things to think about here. So once we get to this position that B stopped at, with T, we're gonna lower one arm to the side and then the other arm to the side, ending up making a T. The whole time, externally rotated, the Spider-Man arms, chins tucked. Again, lots of things to think about here with the T. So it almost builds on each other too. I would start with just A and then maybe B, and then obviously T is building on top of B a lot. So always remembering our rules for stretching, smiling and breathing, and then just work through that as much as you can. Next stretch that's one of my favorites for increasing range of motion is the kneeling T stretch. So with this one, typically want to be against a wall, and I'm using a yoga block to just help stabilize my hips and leg. You don't have to, but it does help, or even roll up a sweatshirt or something like that. Also, the nice thing with the yoga block is you could do it in different ways in terms of changing the yoga block so you're far away from the wall, or shorter, or even more close to the wall. So the leg that's closer to the wall, that's the one you're kneeling on. The outer leg is up, and that's what's pushing into the block here. And so with this kneeling T stretch, just have arms out straight, and then you're going to reach that arm out and try to reach as far back as you can. I'm going to catch myself here in the camera, but I'm trying not to twist and actually look at the camera. So I should be looking straight ahead the whole time here and not talking to the camera. And then that's going to really be able to focus on the movement that I'm trying to get in the thoracic region in particular. Okay, so that's why we call it the kneeling T stretch. Not only are we making a T, but we're working on the thoracic part of our spine where all the ribs are attaching here. So again, looking forward as much as possible, breathing and smiling, and just trying to see what kind of range of motion you can get through that. The next one is the EUT stretch, and it's that abbreviation for a few reasons. One, EU is elbows up. So it could be on the couch, it could be on the table, whatever. Elbows are in an elevated position. And the T is sometimes referred to, you're putting them on the table, or the thoracic part that we are again trying to focus on, that's so critical for swimmers. The more mobility we can get in the thoracic region, the better it's going to be for the swimmers both in and out of the water. So when we get in the elbows up, we're going to try to shallow out that back and the hip area and just let it sink down into the ground. Again, trying to grow the spine, but also let it sink and shallow out. Elbows are up. My chest and head are going down to the ground as much as possible, trying to let that drop and then shallow out in the back as much as possible. You can reset, do a couple reps, or just go down there and hold. But all the while, remember, you're trying to breathe and smile throughout. With any of these stretches that we're doing to increase range of motion, you want to probably do it for at least 30 seconds or a minute. I would think it's the bare minimum for the body to do any type of change, but something is always better than nothing. And you don't need to do it for 10 minutes straight. There's some happy medium. I say in each of these exercises, these stretches, do it until you feel some type of change, some type of release, something like that. Next one here, seated wall angel. And there's a couple different variations. This one is with the knees bent. That's one of the easier ones to do. You can do this on the floor or standing. That's both easier and harder progressions on this. This is kind of the middle one for it. So you want to be sitting back against the wall from your elbow all the way up to your fingertips. That's against the wall. And then you're just going up and down and not having any compensations happen in your chest or head coming off the ground. So again, the palms, or the back of the hands and the forearms are all staying against the wall while you're going up and down with this range of motion. So the minute you feel your elbows come off or your hands come off, you went too far, you got to stay in the range that you can slide along the wall, and all the time breathing and smiling. The next one, sumo squat hold. You're getting down in a squat position, elbows are inside the knees, and you're trying to push out those knees just gently. And sometimes you can kind of move around too, shift a little bit, but all the while you're trying to keep that tall posture as much as you can, even though you're in a very deep squat. You still want to have that chest up, head up, and you're also just pushing out on the knees as well as maybe shifting back and forth, and still remembering our rules of breathing and smiling. So this is the first stretch per se. Again, it's just a function exercise that is, the goal is increased range of motion. This may look more like a traditional exercise and not like a stretch because we actually have a weighted implement here. So for this one, the halo with the kettlebell, I actually have, a weight that I'm going to be moving around my head, but this increases the range of motion in the shoulder. So I'm not doing it because I want to gain strength in my shoulders or arms. I'm doing this because I want increased range of motion in the shoulder. So don't confuse the fact that I have a weight with it. The goal of this is not increased strength, but increased range of motion. So you take the bell and you're just trying to move it around your head as close as possible. However many reps you do to one side, typically 5, 10, you're gonna do that many to the other. And because we are increasing range of motion, that's our goal, the rules still apply. You wanna be able to breathe and smile the whole time while you're rotating the kettlebell around your head in a halo pattern. So these are some of my top favorite function exercises that I do to increase range of motion. Again, there is a laundry list of these. Refer to the PDF and the YouTube channel for more on those.